Welcome and thank you for joining me for this professional development webinar titled Effective Vocabulary Instruction for English Language Learners. My name is Emily Solalinde-Cernas, and in this session, I'll walk you through effective and engaging strategies for teaching vocabulary, which is one of the most essential building blocks in language development and academic success for English language learners. Key topics we will explore in this webinar are the importance of vocabulary for ELLs, common challenges and barriers, high impact strategies, culturally and linguistically responsive teaching. We will look into diverse books and how they are mirrors and windows. So let's start by discussing why vocabulary matters, especially for English language learners. Vocabulary is the foundation of reading comprehension, writing, speaking, and understanding across all subject areas. When students don't understand the words being used, they can't access and understand the content. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, in 2021, over 10% of students in the U.S. schools are English language learners. That is about 5.3 million students. Vocabulary is a foundational skill that impacts reading, comprehension, content mastery, and academic language acquisition for ELLs. English language learners often struggle not because they don't understand ideas, but because they don't have the words to express those ideas. English language learners face some unique challenges when it comes to vocabulary. They may be conversationally fluent in English, but still struggle with Tier 2 and Tier 3 words. They often encounter idioms, figurative language, and unfamiliar syntax. Unlike native speakers, many ELLs haven't had the same level of exposure to English at home or in early childhood environments. Sometimes students are expected to pick up vocabulary naturally, but without explicit instruction, that's just not realistic. When we plan vocabulary instruction, especially for English language learners, it is important to recognize that not all words are the same. That is where the three tiers of vocabulary comes in. Silverman explains each tier, so let's break it down. So tier 1, which is the bottom tier, are words that appear in everyday conversations. Examples are girl, run, dog, book. ELLs may need support with Tier 1 words if they are new to English, but these are usually not the focus of direct instruction. Next, we have Tier 2 words, which is the second level. Tier 2 words are words that appear in academic context and topics. Examples are endangered, analyze, and character. They often appear in texts and tests, but are unlikely to be learned through casual conversation. Tier 2 words are essential for academic success and should be taught explicitly. Lastly, we have Tier 3 words. These words are your context specific words, so examples are photosynthesis, osmosis, peninsula. These words are critical for understanding subject specific material and should be taught as needed, especially during content instruction. One major framework that helps us understand language learning is Cummins, Bix, and Kaup. Bix stands for Basic Interpersonal Communication Skills. This is the social language that students develop quickly. So think of everyday English like, can I go to the bathroom? Or, what's your name? Then, on the other hand, we have Kaup, which is Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. That takes much longer. It often takes 5 to 7 years. It includes the vocabulary used in textbooks, assessments, and formal writing. Words like analyze, predict, justify are examples of academic language. That's why our vocabulary instruction must be explicit, visual, repetitive, and rich in context. Students need to hear, see, say, and use new words multiple times in multiple ways to truly internalize them. Now we're going to go over 5 impact strategies and methods you can use to teach vocabulary to English language learners. We will go in depth and discuss Freyer models, semantic maps, interactive word walls, total physical response, Ralia, and photos. First, we have Freyer models. A Freyer model is a graphic organizer that helps students develop a deeper understanding of vocabulary through 4 sections. So, in the first box, we have the definition, which is usually in student friendly words or terms. Then we have facts or characteristics, which are key features of the word. Then we have examples, which are situations or words that are in the action and show it in action. Lastly, we have non examples, which is what the word is not. And typically in the middle, we will have the word that we are defining. So here I have an example of a completed Freyer model for the word cooperation. So, Freyer models are beneficial to English language learners because they encourage the use of visuals and connections. They help clarify abstract or academic words and can be adapted with their translations. A tip to implement is to have students draw in each section and include a home language translation when appropriate. Next, we have semantic maps, which are a visual organizer that shows how a vocabulary word connects to related terms or concepts. Typically, we will have the main word in the center, with branches linking to categories like synonyms, antonyms, examples, and uses of the word. Here's an example of semantic map for the word weather. Semantic maps are beneficial to English language learners because they activate prior knowledge. They help build word associations and context, and they help students see how the word is related to other ideas, and it's not just their definitions. A tip to implement is to do it as a shared activity first, like in whole group, before expecting your students to use it independently. Next, we have interactive word walls. Interactive word walls are a dynamic visual display of important vocabulary words, often organized by theme or subject, and enriched with images, translations, and student examples. So here we have multiple examples of interactive word walls. Interactive word walls are beneficial to ELLs because they make vocabulary visible and accessible throughout the day. Students are able to access the word wall anytime they may need it. Word walls also reinforce exposures and allows for multiple review opportunities. It encourages student ownership when students help build or update the wall. So a tip to implement is to color code by either vocabulary tier level or language. So for example, science terms will be in blue, and ELA terms could be in green. You can also invite students to contribute to images or examples in their home language. Next, we have total physical response. Total physical response is a strategy where students learn vocabulary through movement. For example, when teaching the word hop, the teacher says the word and models the actions while students follow. Total physical response is beneficial to English language learners because it pairs learning with kinesthetic learning, which boosts memory. It can also reduce anxiety by creating a fun, low stakes learning environment. It also supports comprehension without requiring full verbal fluency. A tip to implement is to use total physical response not just for verbs, but for concepts. For example, when learning about shapes, students can form a triangle with their arms for the word triangle. Realia is real life objects used to teach vocabulary, for example, like using a ruler to teach the word measure. Visuals include photos, drawings, infographics, or icons to support meaning. Visuals and realia are beneficial to English language learners because they provide a direct visual meaning, so there's no guessing or translated needed. It also helps make words more abstract and concrete. A tip to implement is to pair each every new word with at least one image or real item if possible. For example, you can bring in a thermometer when teaching about weather or vocabulary. One of the most powerful things we can do for English language learners is to make vocabulary instruction culturally responsive. That means we don't treat students' home languages and cultures as obstacles, but we treat them as assets. We will now discuss culturally and linguistically responsive strategies to use when teaching vocabulary to English language learners. So, some strategies to use is using cognates. Cognates are words that look and sound similar in English and the student's home language. This helps build connection between the languages. So, for example, of cognates in Spanish are we have animal, which in Spanish is animal, vacation, and then in Spanish is vacación, and trophy, which in Spanish is trofeo. It is important to encourage students to share words from their language and help build bilingual word banks. It's important to honor the students' home language experiences and identities. You can also label classroom items in multiple languages. So you can have a label on the table with the translation as well. So another strategy to implement is to use text with diverse characters, cultural themes, and situations your students can relate to. When students see their lives and cultures represented, they are more likely to engage deeply and language learning becomes more meaningful. So when we talk about choosing text for English language learners, we aren't just choosing reading material. We're also choosing what kind of stories get told and whose voices get heard. So a powerful framework I like to spotlight to guide our book selections is the idea of mirrors and windows, which is a concept introduced by Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop and is beautifully explained by Colorin Colorado. So when we talk about books as mirrors reflect a student's own culture, language, and identity. These are stories that say you belong here for English language learners, especially those that are navigating a new language and culture. These mirror texts are affirming and healing. They validate who the student is and connect to their background to school based learning. So, some examples of books as mirrors are Where Are You From by Yamil Said Mendez and Jamie Kim, and Dear Primo, A Letter to My Cousin by Duncan Donoclen. So, when we talk about books as windows, they offer students a chance to see into the lives, experiences, and cultures for others. For English language learners, this can mean about learning about peers in their new environment. For native speakers, like English speakers, it is a way to better understand the diverse stories and languages around them. So, some examples of books that are windows are A Place to Stay, A Shelter Story by Aaron Gunty, which shares the experience of being homelessness. Another example would be One Plastic Bag, Isatu Sise, and the Recycling Woman of Gambia by Miranda Paul. It's an inspirational true story about transforming a community and making a difference in our world. So when we choose diverse books in terms of culture, language, setting, and author background isn't just about inclusion. It directly affects vocabulary development. When students see characters who talk like them, live like them, or think like them, they're more likely to engage deeply with the language and make meaningful connections. As educators, our job is to provide both mirrors that reflect our students' identity and windows that open up the world beyond them. So, as we wrap up, here are some key takeaways. Vocabulary must be taught explicitly, visually, and in context. Students need opportunities to use new words meaningfully. Home languages and cultures are not barriers, they're powerful resources. Every student deserves access to the words that shape academic success. Thank you so much for dedicating your time to support our English language learners. Let's continue helping students find their voice one word at a time. Thank you.